Hello, I'm Cindy Loza, Managing Editor of Member Content for the Path to Purchase Institute and your Retail Media Unplugged host. I'm really excited because I'm here in London for Retail Media Summit UK, and I'm joined by Hugh Stevens with LiveRamp, a sponsor of RMS UK this year. Hugh, thanks so much for taking the time to meet with me. Let's get things started with, can you tell us about your role at LiveRamp?
Yeah, of course, and thank you for having me. So I'm Managing Director for LiveRamp in the UK, and the team that I work with are running our client relationships, so all of our customer success. They are our commercial teams, so working with, in the context of retail media, our retailers and CPGs, partnerships, so all of the kind of the influencing parties within that ecosystem, data owners and publishers, people like that, and marketing as well. So pleased to be here and be part of this great event.
Yeah, you're in a great place. So I understand that your session is about retailer first-party data and how to prove it's a long-term sustainable investment choice for brands. Can you share your point of view here?
What we have spoken about on that topic with Layla at L'Oreal is very much about the evolution of where brands are going with retailer data. And what we started about was it requires collaboration. And Layla coined this phrase of the coalition of the willing, which I really enjoyed. I like the concept of people coming together to think about how they can move things forward, right? All through the kind of idea that retailers have great data that should be made accessible through safe, secure pathways and technologies for the CPGs to create value from. We know that this is not something that happens overnight, but I think what we talked about today was really through the lens of what does that look like through collaboration, what does that look like through the insights that could be garnered between a retailer and a CPG, how activation and planning might happen, and then equally creating some kind of consistency and measurement. And for me, those key areas are all achievable, and it's going to be through that demand from the CPGs and the relationship and collaboration with the retailers that is going to get us there.
What do you hope that attendees walk away knowing from your session?
I hope they know that Layla's brilliant, first of all, because she really knows her stuff. But secondly, I think it was really to sort of spark the thought process of, I feel like a lot of retail media in the UK has been very focused on the activation moment. And for me, that's the easy part, if you like. Like, can we connect data into a meta? Yes, we can. That's not that difficult. Can we buy an audience in meta? Yes, we can. But actually, what is the lifeblood of decision making in a brand? And how do you make decisions? Well, you make it off great data and great insight. So I think that for me is really where I would like people to focus on from the point of view of that conversation.
How have you seen the retail media landscape evolve in the past few years?
Well, I think, LiveRamp, we operate in a certain part of the retail media ecosystem, right? So we're very much in this off-site and on-site world from the point of view of where data can physically be activated. But really, the evolution that I'm seeing is that data that is powering that has so many more uses. And we're seeing the demand from the retail supply, those brands, those advertisers, back to the retailers to say, we want to do more with you. We want to build deeper relationships. We want to be more strategic in the way that we operate and the way that we engage. And data is a key component of that. And I really feel like that's one of the big things that over the last 12 months we've seen that shift. And I think in the next 12 months we'll see that come to fruition through real use cases. And I'd love to think that we're going to be here next year showing some of those collaborations coming to the fore. Great.
What are some untapped potential opportunities for FMCG brands in the space?
When I think about this, it's very easy to jump to the biggest brands that are out there, right? Because they've got larger budgets, more skill sets, more people. But actually, I think as technology has advanced, as capability has therefore advanced, the barrier to entry has lowered. And I think actually for SME type CPGs or even smaller ones to actually get stronger relationships with the retailers and to get access to some of that insight in a much more condensed and valuable format is very much available now. And so I really feel like the CPGs need to continue to push the retailers to think about how they're going to make it accessible to all of their supply.
And what are some of the challenges unique to brands in the retail media space, and any suggestions on how to solve them?
I think there's plenty, right? In the world that we sit in, regulation around data is absolutely critical, right? So, the UK especially, very much a regulated environment, privacy first. And so, overcoming that and making sure that every consumer that we connect to is permissioned appropriately and is communicated effectively through all of the channels. So that's one of the big ones. I think the second one is actually events like today, sharing insights and helping this rising tide floats all boats type moment, right? And I think that is really, really important because it is a challenge to go from conversation to conversation across all of these different potential retail media networks and to try and find consistency and try and find learnings. And I think the more that we can present some of those ideas back to the market, the better. So the more that we do these sort of things, the more that we are evidencing the effectiveness of the relationships between a retail supplier and a retailer, the better.
What advice do you have for brands? Specifically, we're asked by CPG brands in our community, how can they participate in a space if they're a mid-sized brand, with limited budget, and they're new to retail media?
Certainly in the UK, a lot of the retailers have set up in such a way that it is quite managed service. It's the entry point for those activations that we were talking about is not insignificant. It's about defining where retail media really sits in your plans, whether that be with your media agency and encouraging them to become much more savvy in this space and think about how that can play. But again, I come at it very much from a digital point of view and from an on-site and off-site point of view, not necessarily a kind of in-store shopper marketing point of view. So I'm quite focused on those activation moments and really I think the key thing is setting out what is your objective, what are you trying to achieve, who has the right audience or insight to help you achieve it. Building a sort of progressive relationship over time, test and learn strategy is absolutely critical. And within that test and learn, the measurement piece is essential as well. And so I don't think that there's actually as much of a barrier to entry as maybe there once used to be, because I think that the knowledge is coming back into the retailer to enable more opportunity for the smaller brands.
Great. Are there any particular technologies the company is seeing that could be game changers or you're keeping in mind? I personally hear a lot about data clean rooms, and I've spoken with some CPG brands that are exploring those partnerships with their retailers.
I'll jump immediately to the clean room opportunity. I think, and we've seen this with our acquisition of Habu back in February, that whilst that can immediately present that idea of opportunity, we're now really in a way fathoming out what that means to the retailer. How can they scale quicker through quick, scalable, repeatable processes? How can they satisfy the DPO question around where's my data, what's it being used for, and making sure that that's not being copied into many places. And then also through that sort of rapid, scalable technology, you can satisfy the SME brands, in my mind. I think that becomes a really interesting place to play, because the ability to provide a level of service which suits all is absolutely there. And we're seeing that with our clients. We have retailers who've got 300, 400 plus suppliers, right? And they've probably got 5 or 6 who are in the world of wanting everything and being able to afford everything. So the reality is the long tail is massive. So they need to look at how they serve that. And I think the data clean rooms, the technology exists there to create collaboration, not just between retailers and CPGs, but other data sets that might be in market, the media ecosystem with publishers, other data owners out there that can provide additional insights and knowledge on top of that data as well. So for me, it's a really exciting time in that space.
Great. Now, last question. What do you think is the next frontier of retail media or up and coming area?
The play into activation from where we sit as LiveRamp has been, a huge success and scaling over a very short space of time. I think insight is the next area that needs to be tackled for me. The retailers are sitting on a wealth of data that currently is all about how we target the customer, but not how we understand them. And I think the understanding bit sits quite a lot in the retail media network and not in the hands of the brands. And the brands understand their products, they understand their consumers better than the retailer does in a lot of ways. So you can imagine the power of what the brand already understands plus what the retailer has to really drive brand growth as well. So for me, that's a huge opportunity in the next year.
Great. Well, thanks again for taking the time to chat with me today. That's it from us with the Path to Purchase Institute. I'm Cindy Loza.